Hello BookTube, this is Weekly Reads. My reading week has again been a bit weird and hasn't gone exactly how I thought it would. I started my reading week with the intention of finishing The Sleepwalkers by Christopher Clark. This is a history of the diplomatic relations of the primary antagonists of the First World War in the lead up to 1914. The book is composed of 3 parts. The first part looks at the circumstances in the two initial primary antagonists, the Kingdom of Serbia and the Habsburg Empire. The assassination of the heir to the Habsburg Empire, Franz Ferdinand, by terrorists supported by rogue factions within, or at least officially rogue factions, within the Serbian government. Basically started the war. So part 1 is composed of 2 chapters. Chapter 1 looks at Serbia. Chapter 2 looks at Austria, or Austria-Hungary, the Habsburg Empire. Part 2 looks at the relations between the other antagonists of World War I. So it looks at Germany, Russia, France, and Britain, and how the relations between these 4 changed from the 1890s to 1914. And it's fascinating. And then the third part is the crisis itself, the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand and the events that led to World War I. So I've been working on this book for over a week now. I started it last Tuesday, not this past Tuesday, but the Tuesday before. Or was it Wednesday? It was one of the two, but anyway. So I had been slowly working my way through the book, and I had hoped I would be able to finish it over the weekend. But like I said last week, I like the book. I'm not loving it. I would like to be reading something else. And I ultimately decided at part 3 to set the Sleepwalkers aside in the hopes that maybe reading something else over the rest of this reading week would make me ready to pick the book back up. I'm not entirely sure if that's going to happen, but we shall see. So let's talk about what else I read over this reading week. So a lot of the rest of what I read were slim volumes of poetry. I am gearing up to a massive book purge in the new year, and I'm looking at my poetry collection to see which volumes of poetry I want to keep and which I would like to get rid of, and in one case, whether or not I want to pick up a specific poet's newest work. So let me reorganize this because it's not quite in order of how I read these poems. So I started off with Radioactive Starlings by Myronn Hardy. This is a collection that I've had for a few years, and I'm a bit mixed on the collection. I liked a lot of the poems, but it really didn't wow me as I'd hoped it would. So I don't think I'm going to be keeping this collection, and I don't think I will be picking up Hardy's latest work. I also reread after some time the 2 poems, or the 2 collections I have by Fiona Sze-Lorrain, The Ruined Elegance and Rain in Plural. So both of these collections are definitely a mixed bag. And I think I'm not going to keep either one of them. And finally, I did a bit of a Bill redemption, even though I've already read this collection at least once before. So I thought there would be more Wolves by Sze-Lorrain. So I wanted to make sure, in this case, what I thought of it, and I'll be getting into this collection too. I mean, there were some good poems in here. There were some good poems in all of these collections, but I think for the most part, they didn't really wow me how I would have liked to have been wowed. And I've read these collections enough times already, so I don't think I really need to reread them again. So, after that, I decided to read some manga. I'm definitely feeling the urge to indulge in a massive amount of manga reading. And so I decided to indulge myself, even though I am in nonfiction November, which I can get to in a bit. But anyway, so I read volumes 16, 17, and 18 of Naruto by Masashi Kishimoto. So, Naruto is one of the most popular manga in the world. It's the story of Naruto Uzumaki, a young trainee ninja who discovers that he is the possessor of the nine-tailed demon fox, a monstrous entity that on the day of Naruto's birth attacked the village hidden in the leaves, Konohagakure. The fourth Hokage sealed the demon fox within young infant Naruto, and since then he has been the village pariah and subsequently troublemaker, as he tried to gain the villagers' attention and affection. Naruto desires to become Hokage to force that recognition, and gradually he learns that if you want to be Hokage, you have to love the village and the people in it, and want to protect them not for your own acknowledgement, but because you want to protect them. So, volume 16 starts with the end of the major arc that had encompassed the previous volume. So, in order to advance a grade in the ninja ranking system, Naruto had to take part in his team. Sakura and Sasuke had to take part in the Chunin exams to see them promoted from Genin, apprentice ninja, to Chunin, which would be a more journeyman ninja. During the final stages of the Chunin exams, the villages of Otogakure and Sunagakure joined forces to attack the Hidden Leaf, Konohagakure. The two main battles that had been featured during this arc were the battle between the third Hokage and his former student Orochimaru, who has taken over Otogakure and is masquerading as the Kazekage, the leader of Sunagakure. So that fight ends with, in this volume, with the third Hokage dying and dealing a major blow to Orochimaru. And Naruto's fight with Gaara, the ace of the Hidden Sand, Sunagakure, who is revealed to be quite like Naruto. That Gaara, when he was born, was used as the container for the one-tailed Tanuki spirit. And Gaara has lived a life of isolation, of loneliness, of hatred, and he developed in a very different way than Naruto. Although, during the conflict between Naruto and Gaara, Naruto uses one of his extra powers that's not really all that kind of commented upon, but exists nonetheless, and that is that in Naruto's conflicts, he very often changes his opponents, and kind of in the fight between him and whoever he's fighting, that Naruto, in talking to them and sort of clashing ideologies and philosophies, manages to change his opponent, and many of them become allies, as Gaara will. So once the Operation Destroy Konoha is finished, the arc is done, and the war is over, Orochimaru flees. Suna, once they discover that their Kazekage has been assassinated and impersonated by Orochimaru, surrender, and things are kind of settled over. The new arc begins, which is the search for a new Hokage. As the third Hokage has died, the elders of the village have settled on Jiraiya, another former student of the third Hokage, to take his place. Jiraiya declines. He realizes that he would make a horrible Hokage, and instead urges the selection of the other student of the former Hokage, Tsunade. So Jiraiya takes Naruto on a journey to find Tsunade, and while that's going on, Orochimaru is trying to heal from the wounds inflicted by the third Hokage and seeks Tsunade so that she can heal him. And a new faction called Akatsuki, I think. I have a hard time pronouncing the name of the group, but I will work on it as they become more prominent. Come to kidnap Naruto. One of the members is Itachi Uchiha, who is Sasuke's older brother, who slaughtered the Uchiha clan before the series began, and that's why Sasuke's the way he is. So I had a blast with these 3 volumes. I needed to read these 3 volumes. They were amazing. So as I normally do when I read manga, I'll show you some images. So here's a bit of the final fight between Naruto and Gaara. There's a really wonderful, oh yeah, that is amazing. And there's a really wonderful close-up of Gaara that I think comes at the end of, oh yeah, there. It's just wonderful. And I've mentioned before that I, in some cases, that I don't cry at during like if I read fiction or nonfiction, but the death of the third Hokage and his funeral made me cry. And oh, I love that. So that was wonderful. I had an absolute blast. And here's Uchiha Itachi. So yeah, that was fun. So I cannot wait to read more volumes of Naruto, which will be coming up because my book call for November will be very manga heavy and manga exclusive. But anyway, so that was a blast. So what will I be reading today and the rest of the weekend and next week up until next Friday, which is the 1st of December. So my plan for this reading week's look ahead is to plan up to Thursday. And then with December 1st, I'll do an early weekly reads to talk about what I'll be reading in December as I wrap up the last week of November. So I think today my plan is to get a start on the final part of the Sleepwalkers and hopefully finish the book this weekend. I don't know if it'll be on Saturday, but the weekend I should be able to finish it, hopefully, if I want to. And then for the last 4 or 5 days, depending how things turn out, I have some options. I'm going to go with nonfiction for history for my options, but do not be surprised if I decide to just read manga, at least a good portion of this last week of November. So one option is to bill redeem finally The Opium War by Julia Lovell. Another so this is a history of the first Opium War and its after effects, and so the first time I had to go at this book, which was early last year, I had a mental issue and I had to step away from the book. And then I went back to it later in the year and I just couldn't get into it. So hopefully after over a year away from the book, it'll be fresh if I decide I want to redeem it. The second option is a slim work of history between Mao and McCarthy by Sherlock Brooks. This is a look at Chinese American politics in the mid 20th century. And Against the World by Zahra. This is a look at anti-globalism and mass politics between the First and Second World War. So this was longlisted for this year's Kindle Prize. It did not make the shortlist and was one of the few that sounded really interesting that I haven't got to yet. So hopefully I'll get to it if I feel like it. I don't know. This November's reading has been largely disappointing, particularly in the things that I plan to read, the events. So to recap, this month I was part of 3 booktube events: Nonfiction November, Dr. November, and World War November. So of the events that I participated in, I liked my reread of The Red Hourglass. And the other 3 books I read for Nonfiction November to fit the prompts did not go well at all. For Dr. November, again, nothing I read really worked. And then for World War November, it's not really working either. So I feel like right now I'm really looking forward to what I'm going to be reading in December. And so I don't know if trying to figure out what I want to read this last week of November is. So I don't know if I'm going to be reading some history or if I'll just be reading some manga. Although I do plan on reading manga December 1st. My plan is to get some manga read then and maybe some read on that weekend, but that's next week. So anyway, I will obviously report back next week, well, next Friday afternoon, how things turn out and ultimately what I did decide to read. So that wraps up the reading part. I'm possibly going to have another video here in a few minutes so that my video on Monday will be my 1000th video. I didn't get anything yesterday because I went over to my brother's and it was during my normal filming period. so I didn't have time to film a video. And it wasn't, and I had an idea for what I wanted to do, but I might have to hold off and do a lot more thinking about that video. Um, what else is there? So next week there will be my 1000th video Q&A. Maybe a response video to the most recent Epic Comic Book Wednesday that Michael K. Rodden and Steve Donahue did, because I have a lot of thoughts about this so-called Stanley virus and how I'm not entirely convinced, well, far from convinced, that this so-called Stanley virus has anything to do with the state of contemporary American superhero comics. I mean, there's a lot wrong with the state of contemporary American superhero comics, but I don't think Stan Lee and his innovation has much to actually is responsible for it. I don't think it has anything responsible for it. But anyway, so would like to get that done, but I need to. I think I probably should rewatch Michael's video and finish Steve's video, and then do probably some tag videos if there are some tag videos coming out, maybe some other discussion videos if I can manage it, and my November book haul on Thursday. Since it'll be the last of the day of the month, and every book I got in for November should be in by then. So yeah. Anyway, which will again be pretty much all manga. So anyway, so that's all I got for this week. So thank you, BookTube. Have a great afternoon, and until I see you on Monday, well, unless I do a video next, but I don't think I will. I'll just do 2 videos on Monday, maybe, or maybe one over the weekend. I don't know. But anyway, until I see you next week, thank you, BookTube. Have a great afternoon and weekend, and stay safe.